Latest Browns news. If you think this Browns offseason has been quiet, it's because you haven't been paying attention to the news that just broke today. We're talking about CJ Carr, a name that has just emerged as a legitimate target for Cleveland's future at the quarterback position. And the details of why he might be the guy will surprise you. Then there's the Deshaun Watson situation, where a former NFL general manager has just spoken out publicly with a warning that no one in Cleveland wants to hear right now. And on top of all that, there's a pass rusher with 138 career sacks still available on the market, and the reason why Cleveland should be keeping an eye on him is something we need to discuss. Click the like button and let's get down to business, starting with the future of this franchise's quarterback, because what's being said about CJ Carr right now could change everything. Let's be real. Everyone in Cleveland knows the current quarterback situation is more of a let's see what happens situation than an actual plan. You've got Deshaun Watson coming off not one, but 2 Achilles surgeries. Shedeur Sanders still trying to prove himself after a rough rookie year, Dylan Gabriel hanging around, and now Taylon Green drafted as a developmental dart throw in round 6. That is not a quarterback room that screams we've got this figured out. And GM Andrew Berry basically admitted as much. His big offseason goal wasn't to find the guy, it was to build a better ecosystem around whoever ends up taking snaps. Better protection, better weapons, cleaner evaluation, which is fine, but it also tells you something. Cleveland is already thinking past 2026. And if you want proof of that, look no further than what ESPN's Jordan Reed just put out in his early 2027 mock draft. He took a peek at next year's QB class, and yes, it's stacked. Arch Manning out of Texas is the headliner, and Dante Moore from Oregon is right there with him. Problem is, Reed has both of those guys flying off the board before Cleveland even gets to pick. So who does he land the Browns with? CJ Carr out of Notre Dame. Now, before you scroll past that name, hear this out, because Carr is not just a name to fill a slot. Reed specifically called him out as the kind of quarterback who could shoot up the board fast. In his first full season as a starter, Carr threw for 2,741 yards, 24 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. That touchdown to interception ratio is filthy clean. On top of that, Reed praised his quick release, his command at the line of scrimmage, and how polished his overall mechanics already are. Eyes, footwork, throwing motion, all working together. That's the kind of description you don't throw around lightly. Now, projecting quarterbacks a full year out is basically a guessing game. Berry himself knows that better than anyone. He pointed out that in 2025, nobody had Fernando Mendoza or Ty Simpson on their radar as first-round names. So take the mock with a grain of salt. But the fact that Cleveland is already being plugged into these projections tells you exactly where this franchise is mentally. They're not betting everything on Watson or Sanders saving the day. They're building toward 2027. And CJ Carr just became a name every Browns fan needs to know. Alright, but while everyone's looking ahead to 2027, there's a much more urgent QB battle happening right now in Cleveland. And a former NFL general manager just dropped a warning about Deshaun Watson that the Browns front office cannot ignore. Okay, so here's the situation. Deshaun Watson just came out of voluntary minicamp looking like, well, a starting quarterback. According to Mary Kay Cabot over at Cleveland.com, by day 2 of camp, Watson had already taken over the majority of first-team reps. Red zone work, 2-minute drill, all of it. And the Browns have made it pretty clear they want to have a QB1 named by the end of mandatory minicamp in June. Right now, Watson has the inside track. But not everyone is buying it. Mike Tannenbaum, the former GM of the Jets and the Dolphins, a guy who has been around NFL quarterbacks his entire career, went on the Pat McAfee show and pumped the brakes hard. And his concern isn't about Watson's arm. He's not questioning the talent. His concern is about Watson's body, specifically those legs and that mobility that used to make him one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league. Tannenbaum laid it out plain. When veteran quarterbacks break down late in their careers, it's never the arm that goes first. It's the feet, it's the legs, it's the ability to move in the pocket, create with their legs, and avoid pressure. He brought up Brett Favre and Dan Marino as examples. Guys whose arms were still sharp, but whose mobility had eroded to the point where it changed everything about how defenses could attack them. And Watson hasn't just dealt with normal wear and tear. He's had 2 torn Achilles tendons and a total of 3 surgeries injuries in the last 2 years alone. He hasn't played a full NFL season since 2020. That's 6 years without a complete, healthy campaign. Tannenbaum's bottom line was sharp and direct. He would be genuinely surprised if Watson can start and perform at a high level for all 17 games this season. That's a brutal statement to make about a guy who's currently the frontrunner for the starting job. Now, where does that leave Shedeur Sanders? Still in the race, but chasing. Sanders started 7 games as a rookie last year. 400 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Not a disaster, but not exactly a takeover performance either. He clearly didn't do enough to lock down the job heading into 2026. And now he's watching Watson get the first team reps while the clock ticks toward June. Barry tried to downplay the experience advantage by saying no player technically has a built-in edge. But come on, everyone knows the hierarchy in that room right now. Here's what makes this whole thing fascinating. Watson is playing for his career. This is the last year of that fully guaranteed $230 million contract. If he doesn't perform this season, his NFL story might be over. That's real pressure. And Shedeur knows that if Watson stumbles, whether from injury, poor play, or both, his window to take over could come faster than expected. So this competition is far from settled. And the warning from Tannenbaum? It's not noise. It's exactly the kind of thing Cleveland needs to take seriously before they hand Watson the keys. Now let's shift to the defensive side. Because while the QB room is getting all the headlines, the Browns quietly have a major need at edge rusher. And the answer might already be sitting right there in free agency, waiting for Cleveland to make the call. Myles Garrett had one of the most ridiculous individual seasons by a pass rusher in NFL history last year. 23 sacks, a new single-season record. The guy is an absolute force. But here's the thing, you can't build a dominant defensive line around one guy and a bunch of question marks. Cleveland needs another edge rusher, and right now, they don't really have one. The Browns had a shot at Ruben Bain Jr. with the 6th overall pick in last week's draft. They traded down to 9 instead, and Bain was still on the board. Then they passed again. Cleveland went offensive line with Spencer Fano at 9, grabbed safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren in round 2, added receivers, tight ends, more linemen, and a developmental QB. No pass rusher at all. So where does that leave them? Looking at free agency, and there's one name that makes a lot of sense. Von Miller. Yes, that Von Miller. He just turned 37, but don't let the age fool you into dismissing him entirely. Last season with Washington, he played in all 17 games, logged 9 sacks, 36 QB pressures, 22 hurries, and did it on just 37% of defensive snaps. That's a quality situational rusher doing real damage on a part-time snap count. His career total sits at 138.5 sacks, the most of any active player in the league. Spotrac has his market value around $5.8 million for 2026, which is less than Cleveland was willing to pay AJ Epineza earlier this offseason before that deal fell apart after a failed physical. And here's the kicker. Advanced metrics from PFF show Miller is actually a better run defender than Epineza, on top of being comparable as a pass rusher. He's healthier, cheaper, and more complete. Pairing Von Miller with Myles Garrett on that defensive line, that's not a desperation move. That's a smart, low-risk bet on a proven player who still has something left in the tank. Look, the Browns have Myles Garrett, they might get Von Miller, and they're already eyeing the 2027 draft. But if the QB situation doesn't get resolved, none of it matters. So here's the real question. Do you trust Deshaun Watson to stay healthy for a full season? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss a single update on this team.